How do you define a brand strategy? If you have more than one person that's being represented by the brand, maybe it's a really big business, or maybe it's just a team of co-founders that are trying to decide on what the brand strategy is going to be. I'm going to answer those questions here in this video. Welcome, my name is Kaye Putnam. I'm the psychology-driven brand strategist. I've worked with hundreds of one-on-one clients from small to big and thousands of students in my branding courses and programs. When I talk about creating brand strategy, I often talk about how it is so much easier to create a strategy and a personality that's in alignment with who you really and truly are. This advice might work really well for personal brands, but it feels more confusing when you have more than one person that you're trying to represent in the brand. And in this case, the brand itself becomes its own character and identity. Even so, when you have many people that are contributing ideas to the brand or ideas to the direction of the strategy, I have found that it is most effective when you appoint a visionary for the brand and the business. I don't know where to attribute this quote to, but I've read it somewhere that said diversity in counsel, unity in command. And building a brand works really well when you have a designated visionary for the brand, the person that's going to ultimately make the decisions. Especially when it comes to something like brand archetypes, there's no wrong archetype. All of them are connected to very universal human ideas and designs. And at some point, the brand needs to decide on a direction. They need to cut loose all of the other options and have a very clear brand personality so that people can represent it in a very consistent way. And that's impossible if you have never decided what the direction is. So make sure there's at least one person on your team who is going to be the visionary and they own that role. Once you've decided who the ultimate decision maker is going to be, that's when you can open up the discussion to the larger team. You can talk about what values are important to each of the individual team members in the context of the brand. You can talk about which stories or what attributes they see coming to life in the day-to-day interactions with your clients or customers. The people that have the most contact with your actual customers, your frontline employees, can probably give you a ton of insight into the types of words and appreciations that your best clients will tell you that they appreciate or they like about your brand. I feel so seen and heard, or I know that I can trust you because you guys have really spent a lot of time diving into the science. So getting as close as possible to the actual words and reflections that your clients are already giving you if you have already started the business can be useful. If you're starting something from scratch, take some time to brainstorm what you want the brand to stand for and continue to narrow it down until you have a short list of values, a short list of point of view statements, and your one or two archetypes that you're going to build the brand around. If you're building this brand separate from the individual personalities of the leadership team, for example, I already mentioned that you have the opportunity and really a mandate to create the brand almost like it's its own person or its own character that's going to play a role in your clients' or customers' lives. So knowing that it's this own person, you have the opportunity to be perhaps a little bit more strategic. You have the opportunity to think about the brand's strengths and connect those to personality traits. So perhaps you are already creating value in the market by having futuristic and innovative solutions. So you will probably lean towards more of a magician brand archetype. Or perhaps you spend a ton of time and it's a core competency of yours to be highly researched, to have a bunch of PhDs on your board of directors, that kind of thing. So a sage brand archetype makes the most sense for you. So you're going to want to do two things. Look into your own business DNA, see what sets you apart, see what's creating value in the marketplace, and then match up a personality that makes sense to express that to the world. And then you also have the opportunity to look outside of yourself at your closest competitors and see which personality or archetypes that they're portraying and choose something different. Choose to highlight some archetype that's not showing up in the market at this point. I'm constantly impressed by how well the ice cream brand market does this. They have a product for every archetype under the sun because each of them are owning their unique genius and this unique character, this unique role that they're playing in their clients' lives. So although the ingredients might be exactly the same or close to it, the experience that somebody has with a brand is completely different. So you have like the irreverent, like kind of political activist Ben and Jerry's. You have Blue Bonnet, which is very traditional and home style, reminds me of my grandma's kitchen. You have Magnum ice cream, which is this like decadent lover, unapologetically sexy ice cream. So look out at the existing competitors, see what positions they're already owning in people's minds, and do something different. You don't want to be a Me Too brand, so use this opportunity if you're starting something new or if you're just now getting intentional about what your brand strategy is to do something different. Caveat being, you don't ever want to try to look like you're something that you're not. So if you aren't willing to back up that position in the market with how you're actually going to run your business. So for example, if you are going to be Allstate and run ads about how like a good neighbor, Allstate is here, whatever their tagline is. If you're not treating your customers like a neighbor with that like level of friendliness and openness and being in the trenches with them in those hard moments of their lives, if you're not living up to that brand strategy, it's not going to be a strategic advantage to you. It's actually going to be a point of contention. So whatever strategic position by way of brand strategy that you're choosing for your brand, make sure that it is authentic, that you are living it out loud in your actions that you're taking in your business, not just the visual decisions or the messaging decisions. If you have a team of people that you're trying to rally around and make a decision about what your brand strategy is going to be, people like me are a really great resource. We can take examples from different members of your team and present back to you some of the patterns or the themes and help you discern and choose a ultimate direction based on what is going to be strategic in the market, married with what is a authentic representation of your strengths. And then the second step, after you have decided on the overall foundation and direction, is to create standards. This is incredibly important when you're graduating and you're scaling beyond a single person or a single vision. Nike and Apple have countless designers, but everything that their brand creates still feels on brand because they have very clear brand standards. And even if you're much smaller than Nike, you also need to equip anybody that's showing up on behalf of your brand with guideposts, with templates, with standard operating procedures, with standards. I put all of these into a resource that I create for my one-on-one clients called a brand sourcebook. It includes the overarching brand story and then how it's actually going to show up in both the words and the visuals, the outward expression of the brand. Another fun thing to do when you're a larger team or when you're a larger brand is to document for posterity's sake, and also just so people can get embedded into the history and lore of your brand, is to record the founders' stories that set this up. It's a really beautiful way to communicate the original spark and personality and grit and gumption, all of the things that it took to build your brand to where it is today. Having those founder stories inside of your brand sourcebook or inside of your brand standards is an incredible asset. It gives your salespeople the ability to talk about where you've come from. Gives your customer service reps a sense of pride with their work that they're doing for these clients. And it grounds everybody in where you've come from. All right, lastly, so once you've already set the standards, you've decided on a direction, a vision, a strategy based on that visionary that you've appointed for your brand. Maybe it's your marketing officer, maybe it's your CEO, whoever has that like forward looking, visionary, creative personality that's going to best make that decision for the brand. And you've made those decisions. Then it's time to put it back into your team members' hands and to ask them how they can see this being brought to life in their particular department or set of responsibilities. So if a core brand value and personality trait is to be innovative, what does that look like on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis for each different part of your business? Give people the opportunity and the ownership to contribute to how the vision is being implemented. They have more of that specific knowledge, that specific subject knowledge, that they can really help flesh out and illuminate and bring to life the brand in the actual business. So give them ownership over that process of implementing each of the parts of the brand. And then lastly, reinforce the brand standard. So come up with some type of self-reinforcing system where people are recognized and celebrated for living the brand out loud. So no matter what part of the business the person is in, you could come up with some type of weekly recognition or monthly recognition of somebody who's being the brand really effectively, so that you can capture more of those specific examples of the brand being communicated well. And the more case studies or examples or models that people can follow, the more the brand is going to come to life in all aspects of the business. So there you have it, 4 different recommendations that I have when you're building a brand strategy with a larger team. So first of all is to establish a visionary who's going to make the ultimate decision. We never want to build a brand by committee or by appealing to the average. Great brands are built with a singular point of view. We can get a lot of ideas from the team, but we still need to have and empower that person who's going to be the visionary. And a brand strategist like myself isn't going to be the person that helps you decide or makes that decision for you, but I can help facilitate that process of brainstorming and inspiration gathering and helping to appoint that person that is ultimately going to decide on the direction of the brand. And then making time to record founder stories or the history of the brand through spoken history, recording by video, is a fantastic brand asset to help root everybody in where the brand has come from and to appreciate how far it's come. Set standards and SOPs so that people can be your brand and that they know exactly how to bring that to life. And then also empower the team to help you set those standards or those SOPs or those best practices for how we're going to live the brand out loud. And then as a bonus, recognize the people that are doing it well. Create positive reinforcement so people continue to get better and create more innovative and unique ways that you can express your brand in the market. There you have it, some tips and techniques for creating and implementing brand strategy with a larger team. If you need help in this, get in touch. I'd love to see if I'm a good fit to help you out in your business. Otherwise, hit that subscribe, thumbs up. All of those things are amazing. And I'll see you guys next time.